Hello there and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. This time we'll take a look at the 1998 Toyota MR-2 G Limited. Another SW22 take on our course, perhaps the most prolific of all of the MR2s in this game. In fact, I know it is. As much as the MRS has its concept version, the AW11, there's only one, and then the SW20, you have the 96 and 98 versions of the naturally aspirated car, which is what this one is, and the turbocharged cars. You also have the TOMs and the TRD variants as well. But they have completely different fortunes around our track. For you see, the turbo cars are reasonably quick. Given the power, maybe you'd expect a little bit more out of them, but they are pretty quick. Well, as the naturally aspirated cars like this one are not. They're actually very, very slow, and considering the statistics of them, it is, yeah, just a very, very slow car. So I'm hoping this one can turn it around. This is our first naturally aspirated MR2 to go around with a racing modification. Maybe that'll help it, maybe it'll hinder it. I'm not too sure, but what I do know is these cars are slow, which is a shame, because as much as the SW20, probably my least favourite generation of MR2, it's still a car that I do quite like, and I want it to do well. And the race mod on this one's actually not too bad. A little bit more of a basic design, but I really like the sort of colour stripes on the side of the car, sort of reminiscent of the classic Toyota Baja colours, which I think do look very cool, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be massively quick, but I hope to be proven wrong. Statistically, it really should be. Mid-engined rear-wheel drive, 320 horsepower, 1,088 kilos. Maybe weighs a little bit more than you expect, but in terms of actual sort of out-and-out power, that is very, very good. So, yeah, here's hoping this one will actually be quick. This car is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Audi TT LM Edition. That car set a time of a 26.690. This car unlikely to beat that. In terms of where this car is likely to go, well, as mentioned, the previous NA MR2s, we've had 2 of them of this generation. We've had the 96 car, the 96 version of this, which set a time of a 32.174. To give you an idea of how slow that makes it, that means that it's actually tied with the Daihatsu Terios Kid, which is not ideal. And slightly quicker than that was the Toyota MR Spider, the weird sort of convertible version of this vehicle. That car set a time of a 32.147, so a tad bit quicker, but not massively. Realistically, for this car, it needs to be setting under 32. That's sort of the target for this. If you could go under 32, then it'll be a great win. But judging by that lap, which wasn't too bad, yeah, maybe we might struggle in this. It is, straight away, does not drive like a 320 horsepower car. It really doesn't. It does feel well off the pace, but this is going to be quick enough. 31.804. Good for the MR2 there. Yeah, we've spoken about mid-engine cars and their struggles around here before. Obviously, the really quick stuff, it doesn't really matter a lot too much, but this lower-end mid-engine cars, stuff like this and the Elise, really can struggle around this track. They struggle with understeer primarily, which this has got in droves. I was sort of hoping the racing modification would take care of a little bit of the sort of understeery nature of the MR2, but it really hasn't seemed to, which is a bit of a shame. And again, it really just doesn't feel like a 320 horsepower car, and first gear does not run nearly long enough to really make that viable around here. So yeah, a little bit, yeah, just not very good would be my sort of diagnosis. And again, the turbo cars are terrible. I mean, they make upwards of 500 horsepower. You might expect them to go a little bit quicker than they have done. I remember the TRD was quite quick, but the sort of standard 96 MR2 GTS set a time of like a 30.7, I think, which isn't bad. That's sort of pretty mid-pack for this series. But again, 500 horsepower, you'd sort of hope it would be a little bit quicker than that. So, yeah, not the best. That final lap could have been a little bit quicker. But you can sort of see, I mean, you know, I was wondering if it was just a case of, you know, I drove the previous SW20 so long ago that this car would be quicker in my hands now than it was then. But, I mean, to be honest, I don't think there's much more to come out of that. And you could sort of tell those laps, they were very consistently in the 32.1s, and I don't think they were, like, atrocious laps. So, yeah, definitely some time to be made in Sector 2, but as I've sort of discussed before, the sector times can't really tell the full story. That indicates there's almost 0.2 to come out of this. I really don't think there's that. I think you'd touch it into the 31.7s, but I don't think you'd get much further than that. Anyways, a 31.804 will place this into 388th place. Interestingly, it goes in between the Nissan Stagea RS4V and the Lotus Elise Sport 135, which is pretty apt because I think this car is a lot like the Sport 135. You'll notice slightly slower than it is the Mazda Unos Roadster V Special, but that was actually one of the weakest of all of the NAMX5s. I mean, the NAMX5s that make the equivalent of this power, the turbocharged ones, and they're up in the 30.7s, so yeah, there's just no real contest there between the MX-5s. Sprinter Traino, admittedly that was a very early ran car, and the next ones have sort of gone quicker than that. Slightly quicker than the Mugen Accord Wagon, but again, that had a lot less power than this and a 4-speed automatic gearbox. It's just not quick. That's sort of the bottom line of this, is it's just not a very quick car, which is a shame, because again, I like these cars a lot, and I think 320 horsepower is very reasonable. And it should be at least getting mid-pack, but yeah, no dice. Also worth mentioning as well, this now makes this 0.3 slower than the Lotus Elise, which has 60 less horsepower than this. Don't get me wrong, it weighs about half as much. But the Elise was not good to drive at all, and this is a little bit better to drive, but just nowhere near as quick. So, yeah, something interesting to consider there. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time when I'll be driving something completely different. Until then, farewell.